And we're back for our 5 best bets for the college basketball slate here on November 16th. It's a college basketball Saturday, and I get it. College basketball does get swept under the rug a little bit on Saturdays, and I'll be the first to admit, I don't always bet the most college basketball on Saturdays because of, the college football slate or whatnot. It's fine. We've still got 5 best bets, though, like we are doing every single day here on the channel for the entire college basketball season. We'll be offering you our 5 best bets every single day, and we've got 5 more today for college basketball. And folks, if you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily college basketball bets here on the channel. And in an hour, we will have our daily NBA predictions out as well. Yesterday, big day in college basketball, yes, but also, Jake Paul. Hey, came on here at the beginning of our college basketball best bets video yesterday, gave you a bonus pick of Jake Paul destroying Mike Tyson. And, it wasn't, a quick knockout like we thought might have happened, but it was a dominant performance by Jake Paul. I'm not going to lie, I made one of the biggest bets of my lifetime on Jake Paul beating Mike Tyson. Of course, the line was minus 220, but still, I really like Jake Paul in that fight, and look what happened. Regardless, let's get into this video, folks. If you haven't yet, again, make sure that subscribe button down below for more NBA predictions coming out in about an hour. Our NFL predictions are out on the channel as well, along with our college football predictions and our UFC 309 predictions as well with John Jones and Stipe Miocic in the main event. That fight, of course, is later tonight, so go make sure to check out that video if you haven't yet. All right, let's get on to our first game here. We've got Notre Dame and Georgetown. This game is in DC. It's at the Capital One Arena, obviously the home of the Washington Wizards. Georgetown, obviously, in that DC area. It is in the District of Columbia. Great area, by the way, if you've never been over there. Love the Georgetown area, but we've got Georgetown Notre Dame on NBC, and we like Georgetown. Again, neutral site game, but it's really a home game basically for the Hoyas, and I like Georgetown a lot in this basketball game. I'm not overly impressed with what the Notre Dame Fighting Irish have. Again, Notre Dame's never been a powerhouse in college basketball. Obviously, they're 2-0. They just came off a 9-point victory over Buffalo. Tay Davis went out there and picked up 27 points in that game in that Notre Dame victory. He is a former Seton Hall player. Obviously, played the last 2 seasons though with the Fighting Irish. But Notre Dame beat Stonehill in their first game. Not impressed. Stonehill. And then again, they beat Buffalo by 9 points. You look at the Hoyas. I get it. The Hoyas were really bad in the Big East last season. But at the same time, again, Notre Dame has never been impressive in the ACC at all. For majority of the time I've watched college basketball, Notre Dame has never been good in the ACC. They were not good last year in the ACC. And you look at the Hoyas did last year in the Big East. Again, it was very pitiful. I think they had 3 wins in conference last season. But this is a team that started off 2-0 so far this season. A 8-point victory over Lee and then a 12-point victory over Fairfield. Both games, Thomas Sorber was the leading scorer for the Hoyas in his first season with Georgetown. This guy is a freshman, 22.5 points per game so far, 20 again in the win over Lee, 25 in the victory over Fairfield. I like the Hoyas in this basketball game. Again, you get them at home against Notre Dame, essentially. Sorber has been playing lights out so far this season. Again, not only is he averaging 22.5 points per game, he's also averaging 11 rebounds as well. He does lead the team in blocks as well, 2 blocks a game. That's kind of why I like the Hoyas, really, here. I don't really like anything Notre Dame has. They don't impress me all that much. Again, you've got Braden Shrewsbury. I probably butchered that name. Definitely did. But he's averaging 18.5. Of course, you got Marcus Burton, 18.5. Tay Davis, who we mentioned earlier, with 18. I don't like Notre Dame that much. I think, again, we get the Hoyas at home in this one. Neutral site game, sure, but again, it's in DC. It's in the district. I like the Hoyas to win this basketball game. You look what they were in the Big East last season. Obviously not impressive, but at the same time, Notre Dame was not impressive in the ACC either. That's why I like the Hoyas to win this game. Essentially at home, they are dogs. We're gonna lay the plus 2.5 here, plus 125 on the money line. I like the Hoyas a lot this season. Again, with their true freshman Thomas Sorber, I do like the Hoyas to win this basketball game, and they will cover, obviously, at home as well. Next up, we go on to Bloomington, Indiana. We've got the Indiana Hoosiers taking on the South Carolina Gamecocks. Now, I finally get a chance to talk about Indiana basketball because I haven't been able to all season long because there hasn't been a game that I wanted to talk about with Indiana. I mean, they played, who they played? Eastern Illinois, and they played SIU Edwardsville earlier on this season as well. I finally get my time to talk about the Indiana Hoosiers. Now, if you haven't watched the channel before, if you are not familiar, I went to Indiana last year. I just don't feel like paying all the tuition this year, so that's why I'm not going to Indiana no more. But I went to pretty much every single home game last season at Assembly Hall, with the exception of the Purdue game, because they didn't give me tickets to that game, even though I gave the university $450 to watch every basketball and football game. But then you only get select basketball games, so you don't get to go to the Purdue game. Regardless, okay, they lost that game by 20 points. It's fine. Regardless, I went to pretty much every single IU basketball game last season. I went and saw Keisei Tominaga. I went and saw Ace Baldwin. I know these are not Boo Booey. I know these are not premier names, but I mean those were the the big stars that I watched last season come in to Bloomington, and all three of them ended up winning in Bloomington. Yeah, it was crazy. I remember watching a Sunday morning game, watching Ace Baldwin go in there and absolutely torch the Indiana Hoosiers. It was odd. I'm not gonna lie. Regardless, I get it. Indiana got better this offseason. Khalil Ware is gone, obviously. He's with the Miami Heat now. And who do they replace Khalil Ware with? Well, Omar Ballo, obviously, from the University of Arizona. Again, it's a good pickup. Ballo's been good so far this year. He's averaging, he scored 17 and 15 in his first two games, so he's averaging 16 points a game. I never thought Khalil Ware was the best college basketball player. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. Watching him in person, again, and I'm going to talk about Indiana for quite a bit because I have a lot to say about them. And I've been waiting to talk about Indiana so far this year. I am not sold on Mike Woodson as a coach, I'll be honest with you. But Khalil Ware, again, he'll put up numbers. He'll have his big highlight plays. I was never sold watching Khalil Ware last season. He did nothing that really jumped off the table for me. He was an athletic guy. Obviously, he was huge. But they kind of tried to play through Khalil Ware. And he was great defensively, don't get me wrong. But offensively, he'd struggle at the free throw line. Teams would just hack him. He'd go to the free throw line. He'd miss the front end of a 1-and-1. And, obviously nothing would come out those possessions. He tried to shoot a lot. It wouldn't really work out. If Khalil Ware just tried to back guys down and, again, work in the post and just try to drive, he was a lot more successful. But he tried to shoot a lot, and teams would hack him, and he couldn't really get his free throws down. Regardless, I think they're better this season without Khalil Ware. Again, Khalil Ware, great player, but they bring back Mbako, Malik Renew's back, Trey Galloway. I mean, I feel like Trey Galloway, isn't this guy like 26 years old? I'm joking, but Trey Galloway's back. He doesn't have that big of a, he still plays on this team, but he's not going to be, relied on for his, scoring that much anymore. Gabe Cupps is back. He's a sophomore. They brought in Ja'Kai Newton as well. It's not a bad team. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not a bad team. Of course, Ballo helps as well. Anthony Leal is back, obviously. He is a Bloomington guy who was raised in Bloomington. He's back for his senior season. Again, Indiana is better this year, but I don't think they've made that many strides. I get it. Mbako is going to be one of the best players in college basketball this season. I get that. He's averaging 24.5. Again, Mbako was very iffy last year, but he was a freshman. Now he's a sophomore. Again, Mbako is only going to continue to improve for Indiana. And I know I just said all this about Indiana, and I'm going to turn this around and tell you why I'm picking South Carolina to cover the 7.5 points. Because playing at Assembly Hall right now, it isn't a crazy home court advantage. At least I don't feel like it is. Going to all those games last season, I watched so many teams roll into Bloomington and absolutely either destroy the Hoosiers or put up a great fight. And really the only team that I remember off the top of my head not beating Indiana, who I thought was going to beat them. There were teams obviously that IU beat. I'm looking at Iowa. But other than Iowa, Iowa and Minnesota were the games I watched, going into those games at Assembly Hall. Those are the only ones I didn't bet against IU because I thought they were going to win. The only team that I thought was going to beat Indiana last year and didn't was Wisconsin. But in all fairness to the Badgers, they got screwed over. They literally, I have a video on my phone. They made us evacuate Assembly Hall because someone pulled the fire alarms. So play stopped, and then they resumed play 30 minutes later randomly. But when the fire alarms got pulled, Wisconsin was on a 16-2 run. It was absolutely ridiculous. I will find that footage somewhere on my phone. Yeah, here we go. I have the video. They evacuated everyone outside of Assembly Hall. Here's the fire department, and then everyone comes back in, and there's nobody there back in the arena. It was something. Last year in Bloomington was an insane time. Not really. It was much better this season, obviously, in this year with their football team. Regardless, I like South Carolina. I don't think Indiana has, and I know I just turned this into an Indiana Hoosiers story time, but regardless, I haven't, fully gotten to talk about Indiana basketball. If you watch the college football videos, I talk about, Indiana football a lot. I just don't think Indiana is 7.5 points better than South Carolina. I get South Carolina lost to North Florida earlier this season, but they are led by Colin Murray Boyles, who's averaging 21 points a game so far this season. He is a sophomore, of course, from Columbia, South Carolina, playing now for the Gamecocks. I think South Carolina is able to stay in this basketball game. Again, this is a team, and IU missed the tournament last season. They're ranked 16th now. South Carolina was a 5 seed, I believe, in the tournament. They lost to Oregon, I believe, in the first round, right? I think they're able to stay competitive with Indiana. I get they lost to North Florida. They should be able to bounce back. I like the Gamecocks to keep this game competitive. I like IU to win, but I do think 7.5 points is just too much. Give me the Gamecocks to go into Bloomington and cover the 7.5 point spread. Next up, and we will talk about Indiana as the season progresses. Like, trust me, we will have a lot of Indiana basketball talk, just because, again, I went to the school. Next up, we go to Colorado State going to Mississippi to take on the Ole Miss Rebels. We really like Ole Miss in this spot. I get it. Ole Miss has been very underwhelming this season. They just have, right? I mean, the win over Long Island, I guess, is aging all right, considering Long Island's blowout victory as big underdogs against Air Force a couple days ago. But Ole Miss's 2-point win over Grambling isn't great, and then their 10-point victory over South Alabama. I mean, a win is a win, but, for the team that's ranked 25th in the country, you'd expect Ole Miss to kind of dominate a little bit more. And now they get kind of tested against a very good Mountain West basketball team in the Colorado State Rams. This is a good school. They're 3-0 this season, win over UND, win over Tennessee State, a win over Denver. You look at what Colorado State did last season. This is a team that won in the first four. They beat Virginia in the first round. Unfortunately, they ran into the Texas Longhorns, but they played again in that great upper half of the Mountain West Conference. Again, the upper half, really everyone but San Jose State and Fresno State, off the top of my head, and Air Force kind of. Air Force has their nights. But other than those teams, everyone in the Mountain West is very difficult. Very difficult to deal with. And Colorado State obviously is a part of that. I think they lose this game, obviously. They're playing SEC ball in this one. They got to go to Ole Miss. And I get it. Ole Miss doesn't really have anybody that's just going to take over a basketball game. I mean, is it Jalen Murray? Is it Brakefield? No. Is it Sean Padula? It's not. They don't have a single guy who's just going to take over the game from Mississippi. But I think they're going to play well enough all-around basketball in this game. They got 27 points in their last game from Padula in that win over South Alabama. I feel like Ole Miss has to wake up at some point, right? It's a neutral site game, but it's in Mississippi, so it's kind of basically a home game for Ole Miss. Again, Colorado State having to go all the way from Colorado to Mississippi for this game. This is a game Ole Miss has to win, right? You're 3-0. You struggled against Grambling. You had to go down to the wire with them, and you won. You only beat South Alabama, and a not great team by 10 points. Now you got to come out here and put on a statement win over Colorado State, and I think they're more than capable of doing so. Again, Colorado State this season, 3-0 victories over North Dakota, Tennessee State, and Denver. They've gotten great production out of Clifford, who is averaging 21 points a game so far this season. He had 20 in the win over UND, 31 in the Tennessee State game, and then 12 in the Denver victory, as well as they got 19 in their last victory over Denver from Jalen Lake. The senior has been with Colorado State. I believe he's been with Colorado State for a couple seasons now, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he's been with Colorado State his entire collegiate career. Regardless, I like Ole Miss to win this game. Again, just on paper, I don't think Ole Miss loses to Colorado State, especially with this game being in Mississippi. Again, I feel like Ole Miss has to get it figured out eventually. They have been very low scoring. They play good defense. They should be able to limit anything Colorado State's got going on that side of the ball. I think the Rebels are able to win this game, and I think they are able to cover the 3.5 points as well. So it's going to be Ole Miss to win and to cover. Do I feel great about it? No. No. These are best bets. I feel good about it. Give me Ole Miss to win the basketball game, and they will cover the 3.5 points. Let's go on to our next one here. We move on to Texas and Mississippi Valley State. Now, you may be laughing that you see a 39.5 point spread in this game. I get it. I'd be laughing too. But guys, I actually feel like this is a pretty good line. I'm not joking. This is not satire. I know, again, this is a best bets video, but hear me out here. Missouri's not great. They're not. Missouri is not great. They're good, but they're not, again, are they better than Texas? You can decide that. The one thing that you're not going to agree on, obviously, which should go without saying, is that Texas is much worse than Missouri, okay? They're not much worse than Missouri, okay? Missouri just beat Mississippi Valley State by 72 points. The Delta Devils are horrible. Now, we are only asking a 40-point victory out of Texas. They're coming off a 105-58 victory over Chicago State. They're coming off a 90-59 victory over Houston Christian. I don't care about their Ohio State game. We're not going to talk about it. Guys, Mississippi Valley State is the worst team right now in all of Division I basketball. They are so bad. They only beat the Mississippi University for women 66-49. That's a D3 school. That is a women's school that, okay, they also have men. Mississippi Valley State lost by 39 points at Iowa State. Okay, That is the most motivated MVSU is ever going to be this season. Why? First game of the season on the road at Ames. Oh God, wait, I get Iowa State and Iowa mixed up the cities. Is it Iowa City or is it Ames? It is Ames, yes. Iowa City is where Iowa State is. Or no, Iowa, sorry. But still, that's the most motivated they're gonna be. They lose the game at 39 points. Oh, great. Now again, they just got killed 111-39 by Missouri. This is the worst Division I basketball team of all time. I watched them play in person last year when they went to Santa Clara. They're that bad. This team went 1-30 last season, and Texas will absolutely dominate this team. And I know, oh, taking a 39.5 points, yeah, is that brutal? Oh, yeah, it is. We're doing that for a reason. We're taking Texas to put belt to ass. I don't care. Guys, teams who were able to do this to Mississippi Valley State a lot last season, they don't score. Just listen to their point totals last season, okay? They start the season off 106-60 loss to LSU, 82-43 against Oklahoma. Yeah, that wouldn't cover, but still. 87-53 to UConn, 86-52 to TCU, 81-39 against Santa Clara, 84-48 against Cal State Northridge. Pacific's horrible. Don't want to talk about them. They were horrible last season. North Texas, they lose 79-48. Liberty 74-39, Zaga 78-40, and I get it, they're not always covering a lot of these games, but you know what happened to Mississippi Valley State in the offseason? They got worse. Their team got worse from last year to this year, which is crazy. They did bring back Donovan Sanders, who's their best player, who averaged 10 points a game last season and led them in rebounds as well. Other than that, this team is worse. Arthur Tate graduated. He was one of their kind of leading scorers. He actually led their team in points with 11. They bring back Alvin Stedrick. Texas is going to dominate this basketball game. They should. They have too many guys who can score. They just dominated Chicago State. They covered this line against Chicago State, and now they get to play the literal worst team in Division I basketball. Okay? Chicago State, I get they're 0-3, but probably would beat Mississippi Valley State if they played. Give me Texas. Texas minus 39.5. I can't believe I included that, but guys, they just lost the game 111-39. Yeah. Horns up. This is how you do it. Horns up. Let's go. Move on to our final best bet of the video. We have got Florida Atlantic going on the road to Liberty, and we actually know this is a neutral site game. Regardless, it's fine. We're taking Liberty. We've taken Liberty before here this year. We've taken them actually twice in their 2 victories so far this year against other D1 schools. We've successfully hit on Liberty. Their win over Valpo, they won the game by 20 points. I think they were like 6.5 point favorites. We told you that 6.5 points is not enough, and obviously they blew them out. And the win over Seattle, I think they were 1.5 point favorites in that game. They won the game by 2 points. So we've cashed twice with Liberty so far this year. They're coming off a victory over Carolina University. It's, obviously not a D1 school. They won the game 81-45. Now we're telling you to take them against FAU. I like Liberty a lot this season. I think they're going to be a really good team in the CUSA this season, at least as the CUSA is concerned. I think they should be able to win the conference this season. They're led by Caden Metheny, who is a senior point guard out of Morgantown, West Virginia. Now, if you know anything about Liberty and what they, used to do and, what Liberty was a couple seasons ago, if you know anything about Liberty basketball, you know Darius McGee. Darius McGee was, he was their leading scorer for many years from 2018 or 2020 to 2022/2023. That was Darius McGee's prime with Liberty. I believe he was 5'10", if I'm not mistaken. One of my good friends, a really huge Liberty basketball fan. And I would be told about Darius McGee all the time. And trust me, I'd watch Liberty basketball too. But Darius McGee was a monster. Now, I'm not saying Caden Metheny is what Darius McGee was, because Darius McGee had some crazy seasons. I mean, in 2021, I think he might have led the entire NCAA ranks, or at least Division I basketball points per game. He was going insane that season. At least there's a point in time in that year in 2022 where he was leading, or 2021/2022, where Darius McGee was leading all college basketball in points per game. I'm not saying Caden Metheny is what Darius McGee is, but he kind of reminds me of Darius McGee. He's a short point guard who can score and can score effectively. I like Liberty a lot this season. Again, you look at what they're doing so far this season. They beat Valpo, they beat Seattle University, they beat Carolina University. Again, I know Metheny's not, he's not leading this team in points every single game, but you have production elsewhere. Brett Decker's a guy who's going to go out there and he's going to produce for you as well. Dropped 18 in that game over Carolina University. I like the Flames a lot. You look at who they're playing. They're playing Florida Atlantic. This is a team, again, Liberty undefeated this season. FAU is 2-2. They have wins over Indiana State, Coastal, Georgia, and then losses to UCF and Charleston. You know what happens to Florida Atlantic? They give up 1,000,000 points. They can score, sure. Their wins over Indiana State and Coastal Georgia, 97 points and 99 points respectively. The UCF game losing 100 to 94, and the Charleston game, they gave up 119 points in that game. Now, they did score 116 in double overtime, but still, they gave up 119 points. Liberty should be able to score against FAU. I just think they're the better team, to be honest. FAU doesn't play defense. They don't. They're led by their forward, Caleb Glenn, who's averaging 18 points a game right now. Obviously, it's kind of inflated because of the double overtime game and because, again, FAU does get in these shootouts. But I feel good about the Flames in this game, man. I think they're the better team overall. I like Caden Metheny and the guys here. And, again, if Metheny, who I don't think played their last game, if he doesn't play, I think they're still fine. You got guys like Brett Decker who should be able to go out there and perform. I'm taking the Flames all day in this game. I think they will beat Florida Atlantic. Again, we've taken them, on close odds before in games where you can get good value at their money line. We took them in the Seattle University game on the road. We like them here in Charleston, South Carolina, plus 100. We are riding the Flames as dogs. Give me Liberty to win in the final game of the video. And folks, that will do it for our 5 best bets for college basketball here on November 16th. If you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. We'll be back tomorrow again for more daily bets for the college basketball season here in 2024 and 2025. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.